With a master's in food business degree from the prestigious Culinary Institute of America, Jason Wallace, a former executive chef restaurateur, is an innovative restaurant operations scientist. Wallace's client list reflects all genres of food service, including startups, quick service, full and limited service restaurants. Wallace's educational seminars for leadership development have been attended by prominent restaurant companies. As a food service educator, Wallace has served as a professor and guest lecturer at the New York Restaurant School, the Art Institute, Hudson and Westchester County Colleges. Wallace has been an active member of the New York State Restaurant Association, which was established in 1935, holding various leadership positions, including treasurer, vice chairman of the board of directors, and in 2010, Wallace became the first African-American chairman of the board for the New York State Restaurant Association.
Welcome to season 3 of Hidden Figures with the Restaurant Scientist. So today, season 3, episode 1, super proud to have this lady in the studio with me. Y'all know her as Melba Wilson. I know her as my friend Melba. Please allow me to introduce and welcome to the show the owner of Melba's Restaurant in Harlem, USA, Melba Wilson.
Jason!
What's happening,
Oh
baby?
my God.
How you?
First of all, I have to tell you, Hidden Figures, how apropos, okay?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, because one, we are, like a lot of us, are not exposed, right? Two, I really want to talk about the business of restaurants, right? I know we talk a lot about culinary wizardry and all of the warm and sexy and fuzzy things in the industry, but you know me, all my graduate degrees, undergraduate degrees, I like to talk about the business side of things. I want to focus and tell the world about what does it actually take financially, emotionally, educationally to open a restaurant. And not only just open a restaurant, but as you have done very successfully, you've built a brand. So, that's kind of how the show started. I've had a lot of legends on the show, from Jerry Fernandez to Chip Wade to Kenny Woods. Crisette was on the show before. So we've had a lot of legends on the show. So I'm happy that you will be kicking off season 3. So thank you again for being here.
Jason, you so hit it on the head, because oftentimes people say the restaurant business. No, this should be called the business restaurant, because if the business is not handled correctly, then there is no restaurant. And oftentimes, so many of us go into this industry knowing how to do what? How to cook.
Absolutely.
This is not a hobby.
Yep.
This is a lifestyle. This is a career. And if we don't have those numbers right, we're not going to succeed. We all know that 1 in every 5 restaurants do what?
Fail.
They fail.
Yep.
It is one of the hardest industries to succeed in, and it's because the business aspect oftentimes is not there. So I love the fact that you're calling this Hidden Figures, because our margins are very, very slim in this industry. They're anywhere between 7 to 11%. So we can't afford to make a mistake. Look, if you burn the pine nuts, you spend the rest of the month chasing that profit margin. So we do not have the room to fail in this industry.
Absolutely. So, I'm a number. So for those of you who may or may not know, so I'm a chef by trade, and I stepped out of the kitchen specifically for this reason, because once I understood, I was classically French trained. I went to La Rochelle, worked for Joe Bauman Associates, went to La Rochelle, France, milking goats, making goat cheese, studied wines in Bordeaux, came back to the United States, line cook, sous chef, executive chef. But what I learned was there was a business side. Once I got all the culinary and all of that high-end technique and all that stuff, I was like, well, I think learning the business side is equally, if not more important than actually learning how to cook, a great dish or, great dishes or design a great menu. So I did see a lot of black chefs, but I did not see a lot of black CEOs. right? I didn't see a lot of black CFOs, COOs. So that's kind of how when I went back, and got the other 2 degrees and why I kind of been focused, which you know very well, on just really being behind the scenes, being the behind the scenes support on the financial side and understanding that there's only 100 pennies in that dollar. And as Melba said, if you're below 7%, you're underperforming. All right, you really want to be north of 10%, and 1 penny on $1 million business is 10 grand. So, right, so every 3 cents, 3% could be $30,000 on $1 million business. If you have a $3 million business, that's $90,000. So we're talking about margins. We're talking about hidden figures, and it's my job as a restaurant scientist to expose them. So
Ooh.
let's dive into these conversations. Absolutely, yeah. I'll be dropping nuggets all the time. You know how we do bombs and all kind of stuff.
You are dropping nuggets. You're dropping caviar. You are dropping gems. But what you're saying is so true, Jason, and it's also invaluable. And I'm going to be straight up because I don't know how to be any other way. Had I had someone like you exposing the figures that were hidden, not just myself, but so many of us would have fared well. Okay. I'm in this game on my own for the last, 19 years. I'm going into 20 years now, with just Melba's Harlem. It took me a minute to understand the business part of it. Amazing cook. I knew how to throw down in the kitchen, beef, bobby flay, this, that, and the other. But it took me a minute to understand that business part. And for those of you who don't know, when I opened up Melba's, I could not get a bank loan. So I started with money that I saved under my mattress. The 2 things that banks did not want to loan to back then were restaurants, jewelry stores, 3 things, and anything in the construction industry. And one of the main reasons is they didn't want it, they needed collateral that they could hold on to. What are they going to do in a restaurant? Come and get your stove, your oven, And in jewelry, the same thing. That collateral is something that could easily be put in someone's pocket. So we already knew that as restaurateurs, as chefs, as people in this industry, that it was very difficult for us, especially Black people, people of color, to go to a bank and get a loan.
Absolutely. Or investors. Because most of our investors would be friends and family, and we know that our friends and family weren't necessarily always in that position to have access to that type of capital and afford to lose it, right? So even as a restaurateur, you might have an uncle or an aunt or a friend or a cousin that has $100,000, but you're like, well, if the chances of me losing this money and putting them in a financial hardship, like I don't want that on, right? I don't want that weight on my soul, right?
That's called philanthropy.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times have I loaned or have someone loaned us some money to pay the Con Ed bill, and you ain't gonna get that back. So imagine that $100,000 for that is called philanthropy. I tell people all the time, Black folks, we've been philanthropists for most of our lives. Okay.
All of us, exactly. So let's keep walking down this path of financial challenges, right? Access to capital and opportunities. So talk to me about how you built your brand and what's currently in your portfolio.
Well, I built my brand by, old basic standbys, which are word of mouth. At the time, I'd saved up $312,000 literally under my mattress. I now bank at more reputable establishments. However, back then, 114th Street, Jason, as you know, coming from Newark, 114th Street was one of the most notorious drug blocks in Harlem. And it broke my heart because right next to it was Wadley, the school. And to see kids watching people do crack and shooting up before they even got into the school doors bothered me. And I said I could complain about it, or I could be a part of the change that I really wanted to see. So for me, it was about being in a neighborhood that I'm born and raised in and showing people that although the world may have looked at us as a ghetto, I looked at Harlem as the mecca of Black culture. So how do we turn this negative into a positive? taking my hard-earned money, investing it into a community that I'm born, raised in, and still live in to this day, and being a living example of seeing what can happen, providing income, jobs for people in my community that look like me, but also being a role model and saying that you can come from the Harlems of the world and invest in your community and be the change that you want to see. So that's what I did.
So you touched on a few things. One, all right, so let's go back. I'm always going to keep it on point, right? So as a culinary chef, right, we are artists, right? We are emotional about our food, right? So let me just dissect the mindset of, so that my listeners can understand. So we're creatives on that part, right? So then as community activists, right, and believing in our own way, right, we become community activists in our own way because now we have a vision. So we do a dance between a vision and a dream, right? So I have a vision of what my neighborhood is, right? I've been living in Newark 45 years, and literally people just ask me, "Why do you live in Newark?" Well, first of all, don't believe the hype what you hear about Newark. Second of all, I don't see what you see, right? Because one, I'm a visionary. I have a vision of what Newark, this block could be. What this block could be, whether it's residential, whether it's commercial, whether it's restaurants, whether all of the other things that we need in our lives so that I really don't have to go outside of my community. So what you're talking about is, that vision that you had, that vision to create the brand, and which you've done. And that whole block is, you've transformed. That's Restaurant Row now. And you were the first one there. Let's give her a round of applause for that, because that's vision. That's not only just entrepreneurship, but again, like it really falls in the fact that you are an activist, right? You're an activist for your neighborhood, for your block, for the village of Harlem.
Jason, it's also about creating economic empowerment. That's what it's about. It's about making sure that the dollars circulate within our community at least 8 times. Otherwise, we're not creating economic empowerment. Okay, so when I buy my meat, I'm going to Casablanca. Okay, when I'm buying flowers, I'm going to Franz James right across the street, or I'm going to Barbara's Flowers, where my friend Tara owns that business. When I'm doing my dry cleaning, I'm at Jay's Dry Cleaner, who's a half a block away from me. When I'm getting my hair done, I'm going to Elizabeth on East 125th Street. So that's how we create economic empowerment, is by making sure that the dollars circulate within our community at least 8 times. We can talk about it or we can be about it. But in order to create change in a community, that's changed me. Let's talk about it. If it wasn't for Harlem, I may not have been here after the pandemic. But when the pandemic came, I'm like, I'm a Black girl in a white male dominated industry. Look, I always got to do an uppercut, a right hook, and a jab. So I was like, come on, pandemic. I'm used to pivoting. I'm used to this dance. And it was because of my community that I was able not to strive, but to thrive during tough times.
Absolutely. So let's talk to that young Black female entrepreneur who wants to get into the restaurant industry. You say you started with $300,000. Really drop some nuggets of knowledge about, okay, the security deposit, the rent, was $4,000 a month. I needed 3 months security deposit. That was $12,000. I needed an architectural drawings, whether it was second generation or first generation restaurant. Let's dive behind, into the hidden figures behind what it took. And that was 20 plus years ago. And then we'll fast forward into how those numbers have grown in today's market.
So it was 2004. I was on a flight, and the flight attendant said, in case of an emergency, put on your mask first. And I'd heard this so many times before, Jason, but on this day, it resonated with me. It was an aha moment. I'm talking about what's going on in my community. What am I doing about it? Not enough. Let me check and see how much money I have saved. So that's why, when Fonnie Willis was talking about the whole thing about saving money, and her dad told her to always have cash. Come
Right.
on now, there were so many of us that could relate.
Right.
Okay,
Absolutely. As
we
Warren
knew
Buffett would tell you,
we're like,
cash is king. Cash
come on,
rules.
we're like, amen. But also remember, there was a time when our forefathers could not bank in
Yeah.
regular institutions.
Yeah.
So we got used to putting money under the mattress. That's something my grandmother did, my great grandmother did, my mother did, and it's what I did.
Right.
So those habits come from way back during slavery,
Right.
post-slavery, and when our people migrated up north from the South in search of better jobs and ways to send funds back to their family in the South. So did a lot of our hospitality
Yeah.
ideals, but also a lot of our spending habits did.
Right.
So took that money, put it under my mattress, heard the flight attendant say that, started counting. It took me almost 2 weeks to count. I got scared, thought I was gonna get robbed. Had no clue as to how much money it was. And I wrote out a budget. There was a space on 114th and Frederick Douglass, AKA 8th Avenue, that was available, written in a Sharpie for rent and the number. That was it.
Uh-huh.
I called, and Limley and Wolf back then was the Robert Reach worked for Limley and Wolf, and Robert was the person that took the call, and he said, "I'm sorry, we have a lease out." And my response, "Is it a signed lease?" And they said, "No." I said, "Well, you might have a lease out, but you don't have a lease signed." And
Right,
I was smart
right.
enough then to know, that's that Harlem in me. It's that Harlem.
Absolutely.
Smart enough then to know a deal's not a deal until the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, right?
Yeah.
Long story short, got the space. The rent was $2,500. $2,500. Signed my lease in 2004. I wrote a budget, Jason. The end result looks nothing like the written budget that I had put down. Luckily, I had some amazing mentors. Drew Nearparent, Artie Cutler from Rosa Mexicano, Drew from Montrachet, Tribeca Grill, and just reached out to them. And they helped me with the numbers. They helped me put down a correct budget. And that budget was almost most of my money.
Mm-hmm.
I was going through a divorce, had a 4-year-old son at the time. And the question came, what do you do? And there's a 4-letter word that begins with an F. It's not that one, it's the other one. And it was the word fear.
Yeah.
And the word entered my mind. I'm like, you're going through a divorce, you have a young child. I could not allow fear to stand in the way of my dreams.
Right.
So there was that 4-letter word, but there was also another 5-letter word that began with an F, and that was faith.
Absolutely.
I had to put the 4-letter word aside and allow my faith to step in. I felt I'd been trained for that moment.
Yeah.
Having worked with some of the best in the industry, I knew it was my time.
Yeah.
Signed the lease, and the rest is history. In terms of finances, I had $312,000, went through that very, very quickly. Right. The great thing was that what I was making in a day paid my rent for the month.
Got you.
So we were able to do very, very well at Melba's. It was a 40-seat restaurant. I wasn't doing takeout at the time.
Right.
I was open maybe at that time, 5 to 11 at night, 6 days a week. And a coffee shop opened up across the street from me. And I would sit in the restaurants on Mondays and do my paperwork. Well, then I realized how many people were coming to the door. And because I was closed, the coffee shop across the street started opening on Mondays. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, people would come and knock on the door, and because we weren't open, they would go across the street to the coffee shop. So I was like, So I started opening up on Monday too, that gangster.
Absolutely.
And I figured out, I pay rent for 7 days a week. Why not open 7 days a week? And so I did.
Nice.
Started with 40 seats. Now there are 149 seats. open 12 hours. There's a Melba's in Woolman Rink in Central Park that's been open almost 3 years.
Nice.
The Prudential Center just opened, and that's been there 4 months.
Okay. Nice.
And there's a couple of other things
that's
coming
your
up.
So you got in your portfolio, you got 3 operations currently.
Yes, and also a catering business. So
And the
if you count
catering. So
catering, it's
4 with the catering business. Congratulations on that. So, dreams are possible, right? So for those that are out there, look to Melba as clearly inspiration, and in terms of how to do it correctly, and build that brand on.
Well, I do want to talk about doing it correctly, Jason. I want to step in here for a second.
Yep.
It's not about what you know; it's about what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And don't be afraid to say what you don't know, but also lean into your tribe, lean into your community.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain questions I felt. I've been in this industry for 11 years before I opened Melba's. Surely I thought I knew it all.
Mm-hmm.
Jason, I knew nothing. There's a whole different energy and synergy that comes with owning.
Right.
It's totally different than owning and working for.
Right. Right.
When you own, everything is on you.
On you, right?
When you work for it, you get a paycheck.
Right. Right.
Big difference.
Absolutely.
Big difference. So there are oftentimes, I can tell you right now, I didn't know how I was going to make payroll.
Mm-hmm.
I would have to call my cousin, Dr. Davis, from the 3 doctors from the pack and go, cuz, I need $3,000. Can you get me through until Monday, until the batches come in? There were definitely those times. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that there weren't, especially when I opened up in the state office building.
Yeah.
Prior to the state office building, everything was milk and honey. But when I opened up in the state office building and took on a second location, because the rent was not expensive. But what I didn't factor into the equation was that you had to go through security to get to the 3rd floor to eat. Now who wants to do that?
With custom, that's a little challenging.
You remember those times, Jason?
I certainly do. I certainly do remember those times, for sure.
And so many people told me not to do it. I guess I should have listened to y'all.
I didn't necessarily say don't do it, but I wasn't crazy about it, but I was trying to be supportive.
No, you were not. Neither was my attorney at the time. So. And I should have listened.
Oh, my goodness.
An expensive lesson.
Oh, man. We go back so much. I love you so much.
Did.
Yeah, we came through it. That was a tough period. For sure. So let me dive a little deeper into what Melba is saying. So I'm on both sides of this fence in terms of the reasons why we have a bad reputation is because people will get into the industry without the knowledge or the access to a team of individuals that they will actually listen to, because sometimes the emotional part of being a chef and having that vision clouds the judgment of the science of 100 pennies in every dollar. Right?
Amen.
Hence, the restaurant scientists, right?
Say amen.
So, yes. But then what happens is cash flow becomes an issue, right? Because if credit cards, or at that time, credit cards didn't batch over 24 hours like they do now, right? So it might have taken credit cards to 3 days to hit, right? So, and what we don't understand is there's only 52 weeks in a year, right? When we have a bad week because of weather or anything else that negatively impacts the business, we don't get that week back. You hear people say, "Oh, we'll make it up next week." No, you won't, because Congress is not going to pass a 53rd week. So sit down, be quiet, right? Shut up, and let me explain to you that now, if we were down $2,000 last week and $2,000 a week before, now we got to make up that $4,000 that we didn't make in week 27, 23, whatever week it was, right? And then on top of that, we got to also make what we're supposed to make this week. So now we're playing a cash flow game. So that's why most restaurants will have maybe 60 days to 90 days worth of cash flow that in their operating account, that they can keep things floating as money continues to cycle in, right? We buy inventory as an asset. We liquidate it into, right? We buy food, beer, wines, and spirit. We liquidate it into revenue. And then from that revenue, we pay all of the other expenses, including human capital, right?
Yeah.
So that's the game. So for me, the other side of this is most restaurants don't have an exit strategy, right? So if I sign a 5-year lease, right, the restaurant industry gets a bad rap because some concepts just run their course, right? So if I sign a 5-year lease, 60 months, or a 10-year lease, and after 5 years, maybe my health is not good, or maybe I figured out that this business model doesn't work, I could still get all my money back, right? And maybe pay my investors back and don't leave and don't make any profit. But that's not necessarily a failed restaurant, right? So we're not collecting that data on that side. So what she's really saying is viable nuggets of understanding as an operator how to manage that cash flow, and more importantly, how to keep those expenses, you know, at 90 cents on every dollar so that you can generate 10 EBITDA or greater. So thank you for that knowledge, Melba. We thank you, we thank you, we thank you. Let's pivot into what's on the fiscal calendar for fiscal 24 and 25. Now, I heard through the grapevine that you are coming to my wonderful city of Newark, New Jersey. Is that true?
Well, you know, you're good with the grapevine, but you're even better with the grapes. So.
Yes.
Yes, I'm super excited to be
Oh my
to
goodness.
Newark. Oh my God.
Newark, get ready. She's coming.
Newark, get ready. So, you know, growing up, as I mentioned, my cousin, Dr. Samson Davis, author of The Pack, who born, bred, and buttered in Newark.
Absolutely.
So
Science Park High School, right?
That's right. You already
Science
got
Park. My son Josh. Shout out James Wallace, graduate of Science Park Chargers.
Yes,
Boom, 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 boom.
JW. So Dr. Davis, you know, my cousins, his brother, sister, and all of them, we would go to Newark on the weekends to visit them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we couldn't afford, Jason, back then to hop on a plane and go to Disney World, go to Orlando. So our weekend visits were always with family members, whether we went to Brooklyn or Bridgeport, Connecticut to visit our other, or to Newark, New Jersey. That was our weekend getaways, or they came to our homes. It was also a way to keep the family together. The cousins got a chance to reunite. You know, my mom, dad, and aunts and uncles all played bid whist or spades or poker, and everybody brought a dish, right?
Yeah.
So Newark was a place that we spent a lot of time in. So when I got the opportunity to look into Newark as for potential restaurant site, that was about, it was probably right before the pandemic, I think early 2020, February of 2020. I was approached with a business deal. Mark Burson, who, God bless his soul, just recently passed,
Absolutely.
who is Mr. Newark.
Yeah,
Mr. Newark,
yeah.
Born and raised in Newark as well, and loved that community so much.
Absolutely.
And invested so much into the community. And I started working on a project. Sometimes we started working on one project, which turned into another project. And so it's Melba's 550 over on Broad Street. Super excited about it. So that should happen the latter part of this year. And I am elated.
Yeah, no, we are all excited. The whole city's excited. I'm excited. Clearly, you know, I'm excited. Because clearly I'm a Newarker and you my girl. So I can't wait for you to come.
Always.
So talk about that project. How big? What's the idea? I mean, you know, give us what you can give us without any trade secrets being given away.
It's being designed by David Rockwell.
Okay.
Who's one of my dear friends. And if you know David, you know he's done 36 Broadway plays. All the Taos, Lavos, Nobus, all around the world. Those are restaurants that David designed. He just completed the Fountain Blue in Vegas, which everyone is talking about how beautiful that is. But it's important for me to work with people that I really love and that I trust. And David and I, we've been friends since I'm about 21, 22 years old. So to have him on this project, committed to this project, but more importantly, committed to Newark, shows where we are, what we're doing. And we're looking to provide food, comfort food at affordable prices, to do essentially what we did in Harlem.
Right.
to provide opportunities, to give jobs, and to get more people into the hospitality industry by any
Absolutely.
means necessary.
Nice, nice. Let's drop some congratulations on that. We are excited that project is coming to Newark.
And
Anything
I'm
else?
already in the Prudential Center.
You
That's
are.
been
I did
there.
not know that.
Yes, I'm at the Prue Center, which
Ah,
I
my goodness.
love. Oh my
Wow.
God, yeah, that's been 4 months. Came in November,
Okay.
so
C-
I'm
Congratulations on that.
the only Black female in the Prue Center.
Yeah, yeah.
The chicken is winning. So
Oh, absolutely. So I got I'm actually going to a Devils game soon, so I will definitely stop over there
please
and
do,
support.
please do, please
So
do.
can you share? We got about 10 minutes left. Let's dive in. Any numbers you can share with us about your Newark project, like any just high level costs. Just to give people an understanding of what does it take to open up. Now, we know we talked about opening up a restaurant 20 years ago. What does it take to open up a restaurant now in 2024? Can you
Well, I
share any of
think,
that information with
yeah,
us?
sure. I think it's definitely depends on the type of food you want, the type of cuisine you want. For me, I'm more about comfort food.
Okay.
So it's definitely fast casual.
Okay.
It's tables, it's chairs, it's a bar, it's outdoor dining. But more importantly, it's something that's conducive to the neighborhood.
Got you.
Just like Melba's in Harlem. Melba's in Harlem is a place that you can come on your birthday, but you can come if you just want to sit down and relax or you're passing by. Don't forget, in 550 Broadway, there is a Chase Bank on one corner,
Yep.
and there's a Wells Fargo in the same building that we're in. There's also a workspace on top of us. So let's say you're having a meeting upstairs and you want to come down and have a celebratory beverage, or you want to walk over to NJ Pack. We're only a
Mm-hmm.
few blocks away. So it's more of a place where um, it doesn't have to be a special occasion.
Yep.
It's not fine dining. We're
Got you.
conducive and we're also amenable to the neighborhood. And that's what's important. We want to do the same thing that we've done in Harlem. We want to be a piece of the
Of the
fabric of the
fabric.
community. We're right across the street from the Harriet Tubman
Tubman
Memorial.
Memorial.
That's
Absolutely.
huge.
Yeah. It was just. Yep, that's a
Now,
brand new
now
memorial. If you guys haven't
notice,
seen it or
Jason,
stopped by Newark, definitely stop by on Broad Street and see the Harriet Tubman Memorial. Beautiful,
which is
beautiful tribute.
beautiful. And I'm surrounded by my sister Harriet, who just happens to be one of my favorites. Because just outside of Melba's, a few blocks north, there's also a Harriet Tubman statue as well, memorial. So, what does it take to open a restaurant? I think it totally depends on the type of restaurant you want to take. It varies depending
Yep.
on what you want to offer. And do you want to do fast casual? Do you want to do grab and go? Do you want to do fine dining? It's so many different variables. And as you and I both know, like Fat Joe says, yesterday's price ain't today's price. Okay? So it's
Absolutely.
definitely an expensive venture, but it's one that can also be rewarding. You and I both understand you don't get into this industry to get wealthy.
Yeah.
You get into this industry because of your love and your passion, first of all, for food, but paralleled by as well people.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Great location, by the way. Congratulations on that. She's right. Just for those that may not know, you got to come to Newark, downtown Newark. When I say we, me and Melba and some others, we are changing the fabric of Newark. Newark is going to become a tourist destination for the entire state of New Jersey, Essex County, as well as the city of Newark. And she's, you got Kenjo over there doing great things. Chef Bill's over there killing it with his Asian concept. You have Swahili Village, which is not too far from you as well. African food, jollof rice over there. They got a curry chicken dish over there. It's killing it. So she's walking distance to the New Jersey Performing Arts Center and technically even the Prudential Center. I mean, it's only another 4 blocks. So it's a great location. So we are very parking. Yeah. Parking. So yeah, we cannot wait for Melba to come and be added to the fabric of the city of Newark.
And Jason, you're in Newark. So It's about understanding that people bring people. And I'm super excited not to be far from you as well. But it's the same thing that we've done on Frederick Douglass. You know, people feel, oh, well, if this business is across the street, no, it brings value. I can tell you when I first opened up Melba's on 140, um, I wasn't doing anywhere near what I'm doing today. But it's because there's an Asian restaurant right across the street. It's because Row House is down the block. It's because 67 Orange is right over here. When I was working with Drew, there was, before you even crossed the street, there was Nobu, there was Next Door Nobu, and there was Tribeca Grill. Across the street was Montrachet. Everybody was eating. And we've got to get out of that. And yes, I'm going to say this. Y'all can send me DMs or whatever y'all want to do. We got to get out of the crab in a barrel mentality.
Yeah.
We have to.
Yeah.
We are so much stronger together, Jason, as you and I both know, than we are separated. We've got to change our way of thinking.
Yep.
Okay. When I first opened Melba's, there was no restaurant across the street. Then there became a coffee shop. So we ate off of each other. Now, when I look, there's 67 Orange down the street from me. There's Cantina down the other street. There's Row House. There's Lido. There's Harlem. What is it? Harlem Tavern.
Harlem Tavern. Yeah.
There's Veneteria. And we all eat off of and feed off of each other.
Yep.
And my theory is that, you might go across the street and be having dinner over there. There's Vegan Hood. And you might say, oh, what's that place across the street?
Right.
Melba's. Maybe I'll try that next week.
Yep.
So we've got to understand that we bring value. We really bring value. And also that we thrive off of one another. It's not about competition.
Not
because my competition is me.
Yep.
I want to do better than I did last week.
Absolutely.
I can be a better me than a better you any day. So I don't compete with anybody else, but I do compete with me because my standards are high and I always want to do better than I did yesterday, I did last week, or I did last year.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I subscribe to that same philosophy. I've been in Harlem consulting for
years.
Setipani, Boulevard Bistro,
Yes.
Harlem Hops, Sylvia's,
Yes.
a girl from Make My Cake, Aaliyah. So, and, I want to bring, for Newark, I want to bring that same mentality. I feel like we should join forces in many ways because it's the entire ecosystem, right? So,
Totally.
I'm talking about how we buy our beef, our chicken, our pork, how
Yes.
we buy our flour, our sugar, how we resource in terms of just human capital, right? Because our most valuable asset is human capital. It's not on our balance sheet, but our employees are the most valuable thing we have. So when we start talking about the educator in me, so now it's like, okay, now I have to put together some type of mentor program, an educational program where we're cultivating line cooks, we're cultivating bartenders, we're cultivating managers and GMs.
Jason, I'm here for all of that.
Yeah. I would
I
love
commend
to.
you. I'm just going to say this. You have always been ahead of your time.
Thank you.
No, you have been.
Thank you.
You see, it's sort of like something, some people see things as rocks.
Yeah.
And your insight has always been, nah, let me shine this off, polish it, put a little heat, a little pressure on this. And then at the end, you see that it's not a rock, but there's a diamond.
Absolutely.
There's a valuable gem. And I commend you on that. That's something you have always had the ability to do that not most people do. Oftentimes, even in Harlem.
Thank you.
No, it's you don't have to thank me. I'm a real sister. But even in Harlem, a lot of people saw Harlem as a ghetto.
Yeah.
That's what they saw it as. You, myself, and a few others saw the value in the community. The fact that it was larger than Cleveland. The fact that it took 20 minutes to get to the world, the financial capital of the world by subway. The fact that it has 5 bridges that connect to it. These are things that a lot of people didn't see the value in. And you and I, and some other people, saw the value and the beauty in the community. So And I see
and
that's
it's
what you're
because
doing
we
with
don't see
yours.
each other as competition. That's why. Right?
Never.
There's no jealousy. There's no envy. I lived through all that shit, right? I've been the subject of all of that my entire life. So I don't have that in me. All I see is community. All I see is unity. All I see is us being stronger together than individuals. And you know me, I'm just now coming up on social media. Like, I've been in the background. I always wanted to be in the background. I never wanted to be the face of anything. I wanted to be the guy behind. It's like, yo, these numbers ain't working, man. You know what I mean? Like, this shit ain't gonna work. Like, this motherfucker, like, we gotta make more money over here. So I always wanted to be that guy.
Jason, we need you because for a lot of people who don't understand the business side of this industry, it's important to teach.
Yeah.
It's important to educate. It's important to inform. Yeah. And it's important to make sure that the figures are no longer hidden.
Oh my God. Yeah, we couldn't have set that up any better, right? She killed it. Oh my goodness. All right. I mean, I think that's a great place to stop. I mean, I was going to ask you one more question if you had any final advice for any aspiring entrepreneur, black, white, male, female, any final advice about the restaurant industry or entrepreneurship?
Oh, totally. Definitely. The first thing is to ask questions. Like sometimes you feel, oh, that's a dumb question. That's a stupid question. And I hate to use the word stupid, but the only dumb question or stupid question is the question that's not asked.
It's not asked.
So never be afraid to ask questions. That's number one. Number two, align yourself with a strong team. What do I mean by that? Make sure you have a COO, a CFO, a great accountant, a great lawyer. Know what you're signing before you sign it. Something Bob De Niro told me a long time ago, OPM. You know what that is?
What's that?
Other people's money.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Go to CDFIs. See if you can get investors that you can pay back, because they're going to be rainy days. And if you don't have a rainy day fund, which most of us don't, that could mean the difference between the life and death of your business.
Yep.
Also, volunteer. Work in every aspect of the industry. If I got to go wash dishes, I know how to run a dishwasher. If I have to go bartend, I can do that too. And I have definitely and started out behind the line. Right. So whatever you have to do, don't be afraid to volunteer in every aspect of your business so that no one has an opportunity to hold you hostage. And if they can't show up, guess what? You're there. And Absolutely. It just helps to know everything. Also, the dishwasher.
It's my favorite. Actually, bussing tables and washing dishes is my favorite. Not the pot sink. I don't like the pot sink. I need that mechanical machine. But I bust that machine out. I put that plastic apron on. I have a suit. I'd be three-piece suit down. I'll throw that plastic apron on and jump on that dish machine in a minute.
Yeah, that's right. That's the most valuable person in your business is your dishwasher. Because if the pots are not clean, the plates are not clean, the forks and knife, guess what? You can't do anything. Yeah, your restaurant will
come to a screeching halt.
Right. So what I mean by that is never look down on what people consider the small guys or the small girls. They're the ones that make this business happen. And also understand that this is a business. It is not a hobby.
Yep. So absolutely. Thank you.
The best advice I could give you.
Oh my goodness, let's give Miss Melba Wilson a round of applause. Melba, I want to thank you for coming on the show. Truly a pleasure. Looking forward to, continuing working with you on any and every project that you have. And you have opportunities for me to come into working with your organization, I'm available. Please.
I love that. And I love and appreciate you. Thank you so much for having me on, Jason.
Thank you. Thank you. You too.
All right. Bye.
All right. So that concludes season 1, episode 1 of Hidden Figures in Restaurant Scientists. I be dropping the knowledge and the nuggets. I can't even help that shit, right? This is what I do. I want to thank our sponsors, Cornerstone Business Labs, Cornerstone Production, and Cornerstone Media for paying for this wonderful facility. I want to thank Bravery Studio. As always, until we meet again, peace.